right, Dwan, so welcome back to the show. And it wasn't too long ago, episode 213. Welcome back.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. I know that your specialty, Dwan, is sub twos, or at least Chris and I were talking offline. And so let's just start from the basic. There's a lot of new people that are listening to this podcast. So when we talk about buying properties sub two, what does that mean to you, or can you explain that to the audience?
Well, I mean, yeah, we've been doing them, I don't know, 20 years at this point. So basically the way I look at when I go find a deal and I'm talking to a homeowner, and I still do actually like to deal with homeowners in distress. As I'm listening to their deal and I'm checking out their numbers, I'm kind of deciding what to do. My first thought is, can I keep it as a subject to, like a long term? Should I wholesale it, just flip it to somebody else? Like, what's the deal going to be? But basically on a subject two, I find a homeowner in distress and they deed their house to me. So they, we use a land trust, all the things. They deed their house to us. And then I take that house and I turn around and offer it out as owner financing and I sell it to somebody else. So I make myself the bank. So I'm not the landlord. It's not a lease with an option. It's not any of that. It's like, I'm the bank. You are making mortgage payments to me. I'm, paying the other bank. And most of the deals that we do, we get people in with about a 5-year deal before they have to refinance and take the original, because the original people have to come off the loan at some point in time. And so most of the deals I structure them with my old homeowner, like your name's going to be on the deed, you're going to be on here for the next 5 years. I'm going to do, and I tell them what I'm doing. I'm going to sell to somebody else. And I tell this guy, okay, you got about 5 years to get your credit fixed. And then you're going to have to refinance the house and, get them out and plus cash me out too. So then we do something not real different from what you guys do. We make money in the beginning, we call front load profit. We make the monthly payments that we call deferred profit, and then we make the money at the end when they finance us out that we call the back load. So you guys have like some super cool names that you use as well.
Payday 1, 2, and 3, but you 3 paydays we trademarked. But in the last show, I said to you, you got to call us like the Dwan 3 days or something. You got to trademark.
I am, and it's funny, Bill and I said we've got to get that trademark. I said Chris got his trademark, so we got to get that trademark. But we do. The same kind of a concept. But the thing I really love about subject twos is the homeowners that are in distress really need somebody to step in and help them. And most investors don't really know of subject twos or understand subject twos, or someone told them it was illegal, you can't do it in this state, and people are afraid to do them. So I love sharing it with people and teaching them, because you can see, especially with investors, you can see like that light bulb that goes off. And they're like, oh, I can do that. And then next thing you know, you've created another person that's doing subject twos and helping more and more and more people. And I'm like you guys, I'm all about the students. And if I teach 10 and they teach 10 and they do 10, everybody, down the road, thousands of people get help that most investors walk away from.
So I got a question sorry, Zach. I got a question at the beginning, just in her flow, because I bring this up all the time in our community. So you said 5 years. Do you promise the sellers that, or you just say, here's our intent on the 5-year thing?
I make it our intent, because we used to have a 5-year balloon, but then like that Dodd-Frank changed all the stuff. So you can't like balloon it that way anymore, but it is my intent to have 5 years. 5 years is plenty of time. A person that's stepping in, that's taking and buying that subject to, that's paying me a mortgage every month, if they, they're doing that because they have credit issues most of the time. And 5 years is plenty of time to get your credit straightened around. So I tell them, like, get a secured credit card. And I give them, I actually have a list I give them of things they can do to get their credit better. And at the end of the 5 years, they're not buying the house, they're actually refinancing it. And refinancing is way easier than buying. So they're buying it with me and giving me that down payment because they can't qualify at the bank. But 5 years from now, I can call the credit bureau. I can put those payments on their credit. They've made 5 years of payments to me on time. Now they're refinancing, and that's so much easier for them to do that. And if someone like at the end of 5 years is like, oh man, I can't, then what I do, I don't know if you guys do this or not. What I do is I make them sign all new documents and pay doc prep, and I make them pay points, and I make them pay and give them an extension. So I'm like, listen, if you've had 5 years and you didn't get your credit fixed, and now I've got to redo all this, so now your loan is this much, and we're going to redo the paperwork, and so I charge money for that. Like, you had 5 years to get your credit fixed, so now it's going to cost you. So
I love
do you
it.
guys do that?
Well, there's so much meat here. And if I'm listening to the wicked smart audience is sitting there listening, and I want to take it back for, if you don't mind, just for a quick second, Dwan, as we communicate this, all the language in which we're talking about is very normal language for us, but let's bring it all the way back. And if we could work like a quick timeline, because you said, we buy in the trust and all that stuff. I really want to make sure that people are super clear. So, all right. So you find the seller. You find the seller.
I find a homeowner in distress, in foreclosure, or something. They're losing their house, and they're willing to walk away.
Perfect. So most of these properties in which you're buying, is there like arrears or something like that you have to catch up, or are you dealing directly? Because it sounds like once you're in the foreclosure process, you may be dealing with a bank or something else involved. So are you primarily working directly with the seller before they get to that standpoint?
I'm working with homeowners directly. Now, sometimes that's a good point. And it's funny that you said that, because we all know the lingo so well. I just throw it out there, and I'm assuming everybody understands. But I know a brand new person right now is going, okay, I just still don't understand subject to. What the heck are they talking about with all this other stuff? So one of the things, I do one of a couple of things. If they have, and they almost all have back payments, they're behind on their mortgage payment. So like a deal we just did recently, the people were $8,800 behind. But the person that I sold it to gave me $15,000 down. So I took that money, paid off the $8,800. I gave the homeowners a little bit of moving money, and then I put the difference in my pocket. So many of the houses do have late payments. I also will try to have the homeowner work with the bank, like one last ditch effort, to see if they can do a loan modification where the bank would take those payments and put them on the back of the loan. So there's no payments due right now. But typically with the people I'm working with, they've already done a loan modification with the bank, failed. The bank won't give them another one. And I'm sort of like, their last hope. I'm like the last stand at the Alamo right there. Like, they did a forbearance, they did a loan modification, they didn't make the payments, the bank kicked them out, the bank won't give them another one, and then Dwan-derful shows up.
If you're a listener out there, I really want you to start to really encourage you to focus on the rest of this process here, because this is going to be even more relevant the longer COVID continues to stand. So being able to construct these deals are gonna make you plenty of money in the next upcoming years, and you're gonna be able to help out so many people. Okay, so
Zach, just real quick, one of the things that you just said right there about learning how to construct these deals, one of the number one questions I get from students, like people, listening on a webinar, sitting in an audience, like, well, I don't have money to make up the back payments. Like, they don't even know to think far enough that, like, I'm going to collect the down payments. And even if it's a $15,000 down payment and I have to pay $13,000 in back payments, I still made $2,000. I'm still going to make money every month when I get my payments. And I'm still going to make money at the end. So I would still take a deal like that.
Yep.
Completely agree. All right. So then you buy it, and then we use this like trust thingy, right? So all that stuff. So tell them exactly how you were buying the property.
So we use a land trust. I've been using a land trust for, 25 years. I actually had an attorney create a land trust for me like 25 years ago that I still use to this very day. Every student that works with me gets a copy of my land trust. So I use the land trust. I have the homeowners just deed the house into a land trust. And then, as you know, land trust is like a document, and then it has like exhibit A, B, C, D, and one of those pages is where they change the beneficial interest. So for those of you that are really new, don't know what that means, the beneficial interest really means they just change who the owner is. It's just a fancy word for saying changing the owner. So I then become the beneficiary, and then I create a brand new note and a mortgage and the whole thing, just like a bank, with this third party that's buying the house from me. And I give them a deed. They have the whole, everything they would have if they went into a bank closing. The only extra documents is I have them sign what's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. And for brand new people, that means they sign a deed, deeding the house back to me. So if they don't make payments, I can file the deed in lieu of, or instead of, dragging them through the entire foreclosure process. Because I know as a real estate investor, they can drag on months in foreclosure, they can file bankruptcy, they could keep me in foreclosure for 2 years. So that is a no-no in my world. So they have to be willing to sign the deed in lieu of foreclosure, all done ahead of time, so that, you know, God forbid one goes south, it's not a train wreck for me. And I have to tell you, I told Chris this before, I've never had to foreclose on one person. I've had a few people that said, hey, Dwan, listen, I cannot make the payment. And I would tell them in advance, if you can't make your payment or something comes up, just let me know and you can deed the house back to me and I'll give you some cash for keys and you can move. So I've had a few people that have had to give the house back, but have not had to foreclose one single person. So now I got to like knock on some wood because I don't want to jinx myself right there. But I mean, that's 350 of them, and nobody's ever just fallen behind and made me take them through the foreclosure process. But I mean, I feel like that's really astonishing.
I remember you said that on the interview, and that's where I was going to jump in. So that's awesome, because that's communication up front, right? That's all that is. You say it up front. Don't be going hiding. Just talk to me. I remember you saying that.
That's what I do, and you know, and we check in on people from time to time. I'll have my property manager just, hey, how you guys doing? We just check in with people, because what happens, and this is what happens when people get into foreclosure. They don't open the mail from the bank. They don't want to open their door because it could be a process server. So I don't want that homeowner that I own or finance the house to view me that way, because then if they fall behind, they're going to hide from me.
Yeah.
So I say in the beginning, like, listen, I've been where you've been. I tell them, I say, I lost a house in foreclosure. I went through a divorce. I get it. If you can't make your payments, you call, we'll talk, we'll work it out. Don't ever just go MIA on me. And if you have to move and something comes up, you know, we'll work something out. And I always overly communicate that I have a deed in lieu. Do not make me be the bad guy and have to file this document, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to boot you out. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that person. And it is really communication. Like I said, I've had a few that 2 years in, like, listen, I can't make the payments. We lost our job, blah, 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 and we have to move. And I was like, hey, no worries, man. We'll work it out. Here's a little bit of money, you know, broom sweep it on your way out, leave it clean for me. I just resell it again.
Yeah. Dwan, two things about attorneys, because this just like plagues investors when they have to deal with attorneys, right? Especially because they think the attorneys are whatever on a pedestal, and they give them the wrong information, they go sideways. So two things. One is, what if they're talking to attorneys and attorneys say, well, I don't do subject to, or that you shouldn't do subject to, only probably because they're not familiar with it. And second piece of that attorney question, then I'll let you roll, because I'm sure you have some opinions on attorneys. And that is, I've also gotten pullback from attorneys that are not familiar with it, with respect to, we're selling the property to a buyer with an existing lien sitting there, right? The existing old loan. And so technically it's not clear title. So just address the attorney thing if you don't mind. And I'm sure Zach wants to hit the process.
Oh my God. You know what? It really boils down to, you have to find a really super investor friendly attorney from the beginning. Because I've had the same thing where attorneys that you can't have two first mortgages. That's really a second mortgage. And people, you know, then the buyers get scared, or investors are scared. People are afraid. And honestly, attorneys, in my opinion, attorneys are deal killers. You get an attorney involved in a perfectly great deal and they throw in their 2 cents and they will kill your deal every time. So we have found, sorry if you're an attorney out there, but y'all are deal killers. So we have a title company in Florida. I'm assuming you guys agree with me because you're giggling. So when a new investor comes along or a homeowner's like, oh, my brother's ever used my attorney, I'm like, no. I have a steadfast rule. We close all the deals with my title company or my attorney in whatever state it is. And if you don't want to close where I want to close, you cannot have this house, because I cannot get people stirred up with all this. It's not legal. There's another mortgage. The title's not clear, blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, basically, it's a giant second mortgage if you want to be technical about it. But they're paying me and I'm paying there, and it's all good. So, yeah. So but you have to have an attorney. So I always tell people, try to find somebody from your RIA group or find another successful investor in your actual area and see who they're using. And then use that same person for all the deals. Now, we buy a lot of those buildings I told you about. We buy those buildings in Clinton, Iowa. Well, that's a very tiny, little tiny town. And so when we went and met with the attorney there, he didn't understand land trust. He didn't understand subject twos. He didn't understand anything. And we literally had to take this guy and spend like a day with him and teach him what we're doing and showing him all the reasons why it's legal. If he wants to be the attorney in town that we're going to use for all the stuff we're doing, he needs to get with the program. So the guy, we gave him our program. We gave him our bankruptcy program. We gave him our short sale program. We went and met with him 5 or 6 times. We gave him a land trust seminar basically, and talked about subject twos. And he's the greatest guy now. He does all of our deals. He understands it. But initially he was like, you guys can't do that. That's not legal in Iowa. It's like, oh my gosh, it's legal everywhere. So, but there's like 2 guys in town, really, like 2 guys, without having to drive someplace else. And so I was like, let's just train this guy and get him on board. So now we flipped 5 buildings recently. He's like, oh yeah, no, I got it. I know how to do it all. So now he's like the big wig in town because he gets it. But we had to literally give the guy a seminar.
Yeah, sounds like you got a new business if you're not already training attorneys on how to do sub-2 deals.
Yeah.
A new product for you.
I'm telling you, he was like, this is really genius. And he's looking through law books and he's like, well, this is legal. And when it's all said and done, he's like, well, it's legal, so I'll do it. And I was like, okay. So his name is Dick Farwell. So he's our attorney. So if you're in Clinton, Iowa, we've got a great attorney because we trained him.
Perfect.
Good shout out.
Yeah, thanks, Dick. All right. So this has all been good, us talking theory, right? I'd love to dive into one of your deals so that way people can clearly see the picture on how you're utilizing all these things. You said you just recently did a deal, so I'd love to dive into it if you wouldn't mind.
Well, okay, so the deal that I just did, it is a commercial deal. So it is a commercial deal. Well, I don't even know if it's really that great of a subject to example, but it's a good deal. In the little town that we're in, I had told Chris last time that we have purchased 14 buildings. This is like, oh my God, we got 14 buildings. Now this guy comes along and he's got a commercial building was a car garage. It's got lifts and all kinds of stuff in it. And it's got 20 storage units. And he's like, I got to get rid of this building. I can't take it. So he was asking 189. And we're like, dude, we could maybe half. It's not going to happen. And he's like, yeah, but I got to get rid of it. Like COVID and his business was closed and he wants to move. And he's like, I got to get rid of this. I can't sell it. And he just stuck to that 189. So we were just like, listen, when you want to come down to 90, call us. So months went by. Like this deal I was working on back when I talked to Chris last time. Months went by. So finally, I think because of COVID and nobody was bringing their cars in and, just the whole big thing, he finally called back. He's like, okay, you guys said when I can get about 90 to come back. And so this is actually one that we purchased like to keep for ourselves. So he's like, I'll take, but you got to pay me in cash. We're like, oh man, no, I can't do cash. It's too much money. It's COVID for us too. And anyway, we got the guy to end up taking 95,000 and do 100% owner financing for us. So we walked in. So we have the big giant car lot, the 20 storage units. 189 was like, I'm not budging. 6 months later, 95, and he owner financed us, so we didn't have to come up with any money down. So it's like, that's a good deal. I want to keep that. I don't want to give that to anybody else. I'm going to hang on to that baby. So now in addition to everything else, now we have storage units. It's like, oh my gosh. But and that's not exactly a subject too, because I didn't sell to anybody else, but we just did this like a month ago. And, but we have 5 more under contract. So I've got 5 more houses under contract. And of those, we're going to offer all of those out as subject twos in this same little town. So like, let me think of what our house deals. We did a house deal. Let me think of the numbers. They owed 200. Let me think of this deal. I think this guy owed 200. Oh, yeah. Okay, I got this deal. This is a deal that we did over in Colorado Springs. The guy owed 200. I think it was worth 200. He owed 200. He was only about let me tell you about Michael's deal. This is the best one. This is the same price range. I just thought I got to find a really great one. This was Michael's deal.
We dug one up. This is good.
Well, I have so many. It's like, and all the numbers and so many of them rumbling in my head all the time. But this was a really great deal because this guy was not behind on payments. So this guy's name was Michael, and he had a house in Colorado Springs, $200,000 house. And he saw one of our ads or something, and he said, listen, I got a job transfer. And he goes, I have to move to Texas like next week. But his job relies on him having good credit, and it's got some security that goes with his job. He was in the service and things like that. So he goes, I saw one of your signs about cash for houses. Can you pay cash for my house? And so we went and sat down and talked to the guy. And he's like, I'm not even behind a payment. I cannot get a late payment on my credit because that would disqualify him from the job he was moving. So literally, like on a Monday, he was moving like the weekend. He's like, I have to move like right now, and I can't afford to make this payment and pay the rent over there. And they weren't paying him to move and putting him up in a place or anything. So he was going to have to, on the very next month, make 2 payments. And he said he couldn't afford it. So we were like, okay, we did all the paper real quick. We did all the paperwork, did everything. He takes off, he moves to Texas. And so there's just a few weeks left in the month. So we do make the next payment because we're working, finding the right person to put into the house on a subject to situation. So we made his next payment because that was like the deal. No payments could be late. So we found a couple, and we sold to them for $220. And they gave us $20,000 down. So I sold it for $220 to this couple. They gave us $20,000 down. Michael's interest rate was 3.5%, and their new interest rate was like 5. We'll say it was like 6%. So he didn't want any money. He just deeded us the house. He signed a land trust. He signed the agreements. He signed everything. We made a promise in writing and verbally we would never miss a payment, blah, blah, blah. We told him we were going to offer it out subject to somebody else, explain the whole thing to him. He's like, I'm fine, I'm out. And he was gone. So we found a couple. They put $20,000 down, which went into our pocket minus his one payment. And his one payment was only $1,300. So that was it. So 20,000 down, and then we took 1,300 and reimbursed for the payment that we made. So we're still in that deal. So we make $341 a month. So we make $341 a month. They have actually it comes up next year. And the payment people have made all their payments. and they've already let us know that they're going to be refinancing it next year. So we're still in this one, but we're 4 years in. They've never missed a payment. We make $341 a month. We got $20,000 down, and at the end, we'll see how much we cash out. I don't think it'll be a giant cash out because Michael's mortgage was 20 and their mortgage is 200 and their mortgage is 200, but their interest rate's higher, and he had his out a little bit longer. So I don't think it'll be a giant, maybe like one of those 10 or 15,000 cash outs. I don't think it'll be a giant one, but we got 20 down, 341 a month for 5 years, and then we'll get the cash out then. And that was just a great deal because he wasn't even behind on payments. But see, he had a distress because he had to move like the following weekend. It was really quick. It was a real quick job offer. It was like double the money, and he like had to leave town immediately. And there we were. So that was one of my favorite deals because we helped him help the new people, and we're still making money.
And all 3 paydays sound like you're over 50. So what's wrong with
It's
that?
gonna be, I think we figured it would come out to about 50.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we're at 341, so what is 341 for the 16 months? I think it's gonna come out to about that. So that's 341 times 60, so that's 20,000, and we got 20 down. So at the end, it should be around 10, 11, so it should be a $50,000 deal. And it's funny, I tell my students, it's almost every subject too, if you structure them all well, every single one should be a $50,000 payday. So you take a house with no equity, and it looks like there's no equity, it looks like there's nothing there, and you walk away. But if you would structure it, almost and I think if you look back over your numbers too, it seems like 50,000 is kind of like the magic subject to number on most of the deals.
Let me just comment, Zach, and then I'll jump to you on structuring deals, because we could do 2 hours and still have students going, yeah, but. So this summer, June 12th, 1-day event, Summer of Deals. Go to summerofdeals.com. We are going to do deal structuring all day long. And Dwan is going to be one of probably 1 or 2 speakers because she knows how to structure deals. So you don't want to miss that event. For a dirt cheap virtual event, you can and should be there. Hang out with us all day on June 12th. Zach, I'm sorry for the commercial, but they need that event. So I'll go to you.
That's awesome. I'm actually very excited. These are some of my favorite types of deals. These in owner financing, which was the other deal that you gave us. So I know, Dwan, I know you have a product, and certainly that can help any student out there be able to start doing these types of deals. Let's just give them one quick nugget, because you're sitting there, you're like, always $50,000. These deals work, and $50,000 to any new investor is an amazing deal. So tell us, where are you finding these deals? Because if I'm sitting out there, I'm just getting started, I'm like, yeah, that's great, but how do I find these deals?
Yeah, I know this sounds like it's so simple, but honest to God, to this day, I still put those bandit signs out. I have bandit signs all over the place that say, we buy houses cash. People call all the time. And no matter who calls, I take the time to take the questions, ask my questions. What do you owe? What do you think it's worth? What can I repair? You know, I kind of go through my little scenario, and immediately I'm like, should I keep it, rehab it, subject to it, what should I do with it? And honestly, if people would just use the information at the courthouses and throw out some bandit signs. I mean, I know people mail expensive postcards and they do all this crazy stuff. I just have a bunch of signs out in the yards all over the place. And one thing I do, I think I told Chris this, I may not have told Chris this before. When we're out looking at neighborhoods and we see a vacant house, like a bank-owned vacant house, I actually put my bandit sign in those yards.
Oh, I love it.
It's not on anybody's property. It's not on the street corner. I'm not going to get ticketed, and the house is vacant. And you know, those vacant houses, they sit boarded up for 2 years. So we put all of our signs in the yards of vacant houses, and that's my advertising. So
you didn't tell me that one.
Did I tell you that?
No, that's a good takeaway.
I didn't remember if I told you or not. So we started doing that about like 7 years ago. And I thought, well, let's just try it. If I get the idea, I'm going to try it. So we did that like 7 years ago. And we'd put 50 or 60 signs out, but it's not like in the old days where you put them on the street corner to go take them all down. And, these signs stayed. And so pretty soon we're getting like hundreds of phone calls. I'm like, oh my God, we got to go back and get some of those signs out of the yards because nobody's touching them because they're in a yard. So
Love it.
honestly, my best advertising tip, buy some Bandit signs and put them in the yards of all those vacant houses and all the neighbors will call you and you'll get so many opportunities. And then they just have to learn to talk to the homeowners and just determine if it is a no equity subject to kind of a deal and structure it and have faith in the system.